On Thursday, October 1st, 2015, 31-year-old Eitam Hankin and his wife, 30-year-old Naama Hankin, were driving back home with their 4 children of the ages of 9, 7, 4, and 4 months. The children were seated in the back when suddenly Palestinian terrorists opened fire at the car. The 4 children witnessed the death of their mother and father. The children survived. They survived not because the murderers had shown mercy towards them and decided to spare their lives. Not at all. They survived because one of the terrorists was accidentally shot and injured by one of his fellow terrorists, this forcing them to withdraw and stop from finishing the job. Since September 13, which was also Kaftet Elul, the eve of the Jewish New Year, Israeli civilians are facing a wave of terror attacks taking place in Jerusalem, in the West Bank, in Netanya, in Tel Aviv, in Rishon LeZion, and in other cities and towns in Israel. During this period, 11 Israeli civilians have been killed, more than 150 Israelis have been injured, 21 of them seriously. 2 were seriously injured just yesterday. More than 60 Palestinian terrorists have been killed while attacking Israelis. Since this eruption of terror began on the 13th of September, there were over 70 terror attacks. That's an average of 1.3 terror attacks, which include stabbing, shooting, and ramming of cars into people, a percent of 1.3 per day. One must wonder, what made this sudden murderous terror wave erupt in some areas that were relatively quiet for the past decade? It's the frustration from the occupation. That's the simplistic explanation that is repeated by people that embrace simplistic explanations about this conflict. Simplistic explanations usually go hand in hand with simplistic solutions, such as, if only Israel ends the occupation, then the violence will stop. If only Israel evacuates Jews from the West Bank, then the Middle East will be quiet and peaceful. The truth is that all of these terror attacks from the past 7 weeks or so have nothing to do with the Palestinian national aspirations. They have nothing to do with the so-called occupation and have nothing to do with the settlements. In fact, claiming that this terror wave is about the occupation or the settlements is almost as far-fetched as claiming that the 1929 terror attack against the Jewish population in Hebron was about the occupation or about the settlements. And I heard that Bengt mentioned that also, but it's a good point that people will understand. And I give this example because the fact that the 1929 massacre of the Jewish community in Hebron, in which 67 Jews were slaughtered, that massacre occurred 19 years before Israel was established, and 38 years before the so-called occupation began. The fact is that this happened for the same reasons, for this exact same reasons, that Jews in Israel are being stabbed to death in the streets today. Jews are being killed because they are Jews. They are being killed by jihadist terrorists motivated by religious fanaticism. This religious fanaticism is fueled with lies. The lie that the Jews are planning to take over Al-Aqsa, to destroy it, or to build their temple instead of it, was apparently convincing 90 years ago, and unfortunately, it still persists to this very day. The terrorists that are being arrested and interrogated by the security forces don't even pretend that they try to kill Jews because of the settlements or the foreign policy of Israel. In their own words, they want to murder Jews because they are Jews. It is a religious fanaticism that knows no limits. This lie that Al-Aqsa is in danger and must be protected is spread out like poison by imams in mosques and also by political leaders who show no responsibility whatsoever. When Mahmoud Abbas says that he welcomes every drop of blood spilled for Jerusalem, and I quote, "Blood of martyrs spilled in the Temple Mount is pure." And also, and I'll quote again, "Jews have no right to desecrate the mosque with their filthy feet." When these poisonous lies are spread, this is the result. It is Israel's highest interest to maintain the status quo on Temple Mount. Last year, 12,000 Jews visited the holy site. 200,000 Christians visited the holy site, and 3.5 million Muslims visited. Only Muslims are allowed to pray on the mount. Non-Muslims may visit at specific times that have not been changed. Incitement kills. Lies kill. While my friends and family are back home, coping with their anxieties and fears from terror on the streets, I am here, reading the newspapers about the situation back home. And what I read and what the newspapers are describing is a twisted reality. In a long series of incorrect reports, distorting of facts and misleading headlines, the majority of media coverage in Norway creates the impression that the victim is the aggressor, that the ones protecting themselves are the killers, and that Israel has no right to defend itself. Studies have shown that 80% of the readers just read the headlines. Well, here are some examples for headlines from Norwegian media. For example, Palestinian shot dead after Jerusalem attacks kills 2. That's the headline.